The Christmas table gleamed under my mother's chandelier, every place setting aligned with military precision. She believed that polished silverware could polish our family's reputation. Sarah sat in the seat of honor beside Dad, draped in a charcoal Armani blazer worth more than my monthly warehouse wages. Her company, TechFlow Solutions, had just finished what she never stopped bragging about, their Series B funding round. For 6 months, she'd wielded that phrase like a badge of royalty. The due diligence process was brutal, she declared, adjusting her designer watch as if it were a crown. 3 months of investors tearing apart every detail: financials, architecture, market strategy, leadership credentials. Most startups would collapse under the scrutiny. Cousin Marcus leaned forward, starry-eyed. But TechFlow didn't just survive. Sarah continued, smiling with triumphant precision. The lead investor called our AI integration platform revolutionary. They said our market penetration analytics were unmatched in enterprise software. Uncle Robert raised his glass with ceremony. To Sarah, the first true entrepreneur this family has ever produced. Crystal clinked all around. Everyone toasted, except me. I sat at the far corner, still in my warehouse uniform from my evening shift. Dave stitched on my chest like a scarlet letter. Under the glittering chandelier, my polyester shirt looked especially pitiful. Dave should be taking notes, Dad said. His voice dipped in condescension. Maybe he'll learn something by osmosis. Sarah set down her fork like a general about to issue orders. Actually, Dad, that's the perfect segue, she said smoothly. There's something I've been preparing for tonight. The room stilled. Mom froze mid-bite, sensing incoming drama. I've been analyzing our family's financial trajectory. Sarah unlocked her phone, revealing a slick presentation. The title glowed across the screen: Family Wealth Assessment Matrix, Q4 Analysis. As successful individuals, we need to align our strategies and focus on members who meaningfully contribute to collective growth. Uncle Robert nodded. Smart thinking. Time is money. Sarah swiped to a bar graph ranking the family by annual economic impact contribution. A professionally designed chart, complete with colors, projections, and a confidence that screamed, "This is gospel." Uncle Robert's construction empire, $2.3 million revenue, margins above industry average. The red laser landed on his name. He straightened with pride. Dad's accounting practice, $1.8 million client portfolio, stellar retention. Dad beamed. Mom's real estate, $900,000 in passive income across 3 cities. Mom actually blushed. Sarah, this is impressive. Marcus's regional sales director, $450,000 compensation plus bonuses. Marcus lifted his glass, grinning. Appreciate the research. On and on she went, everyone bathed in recognition. And then, the pause. The laser drifted downward. And here we have Dave. The red dot circled the tiniest bar on the chart. Warehouse operations, $38,000 a year. No bonuses, no portfolio, no ventures, no measurable contribution to collective wealth. Silence pressed in. I kept eating my vegetables, letting the flavors Mom labored over outshine the humiliation. Now, everyone has value, Sarah added, her voice coated in false sympathy. But from a strategic standpoint, we must prioritize members with real business sophistication. Cousin Jenny frowned. So what are you suggesting? Sarah clicked to her final slide: optimized family governance structure, implementation timeline. Starting next quarter, strategic sessions will be for contributors only. Social events stay inclusive: birthdays, holidays. But when we're discussing investments, acquisitions, IPOs, only those fluent in business will participate. She swept the room with her laser pointer, then let it settle on me. No offense, Dave, but you work an hourly warehouse job. You punch a clock. That doesn't translate into venture capital literacy. When we talk about valuation models or portfolio diversification, you'd be lost. That makes sense, I said quietly, returning to my plate. Exactly, Sarah replied, smiling with satisfaction. Dave knows his limitations. He doesn't need to sit in conversations beyond his depth. Dad nodded. Practical approach. How would it work? Sarah tapped back to her timeline. Quarterly contributor exclusive meetings. Structured. Data-driven. Outcome-focused. Mom leaned in cautiously. And when would these meetings happen? I was thinking monthly, Sarah said smoothly, rotating between offices and homes. Next week, for instance, I could host at Techflow's headquarters downtown. You'd see our labs, meet our advisory board, even preview some of our proprietary algorithms. Marcus leaned in. What kind of topics would we cover? Everything from pooled investments to joint ventures. Uncle Robert might leverage family capital for construction projects. Dad could streamline corporate tax strategies. Mom has commercial real estate expertise we could integrate into the portfolio. Her voice quickened, revealing just how long she'd been rehearsing. We could establish a family fund, coordinate purchasing power for insurance and legal services, even cross-collaborate tech for Robert's sites, custom accounting systems for Dad's firm. Robert raised his glass. And profit sharing? Naturally, contributors earn proportional returns. Jenny glanced at me with sympathy. And Dave? Sarah smiled as though being merciful. Dave benefits indirectly. Of course, rising tides lift all boats, but strategic discussions require business fluency. He's welcome to sit in occasionally. As an observer, think of it as free business school. I appreciate the offer, I murmured. Perfect, Sarah said brightly, clicking her laptop shut. I'll send invites for the first contributor session, Tuesday, 10 a.m. sharp. She segued into Techflow's victories, the $40 million Series B round, Fortune 500 pilot programs, 400% projected revenue growth, expansion into Austin and Seattle. Dad peppered her with cash flow questions, Robert with profit margin queries, and Sarah fielded them all with cool precision. The investors were brutal, she said, pulling up charts, technology audits, legal vetting, market analysis. Pinnacle Capital doesn't write checks like this lightly. My MIT technical background and Google AI track record gave us a huge edge. Jenny blinked. I thought you studied communications at State. Supplemental coursework at MIT, Sarah replied briskly. Executive education, equivalent foundation. For another hour, she dazzled the table with venture capital lingo and billion-dollar dreams. By dessert, she was already outlining her next move, launching her own venture fund. Start with 50 or 60 million, she mused, as casually as if she were planning brunch. With the right limited partners, scale to hundreds of millions in no time. As the night wound down, she passed around glossy Techflow business cards, embossed lettering, holographic logo. Contributors will get official invites. Next week, don't be late. When the last coat disappeared out the door, I stayed behind to help Mom with dishes. She gushed about Sarah's brilliance, marveling aloud at how one child had mastered the world while the other seemed content with mediocrity. I drove home, showered, then settled into my office. Everything had unfolded exactly as expected. Sarah had been maneuvering toward my public exclusion for months. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Thanks for being so understanding tonight. Contributor rules might sound harsh, but it's about maximizing potential. Most people would feel jealous. Shows real maturity on your part. I typed back, congratulations on everything you've achieved. Then I opened my encrypted laptop, drafted 2 messages. To my attorney, Michael Chin, execute immediate termination of funding agreement TF 2024A. Trigger section 15. 3. Effective at market open. Standard 48-hour wind down protocol. To my portfolio manager at Meridian Capital. Withdraw all $40 million committed to Techflow Solutions. Termination effective 9 a.m. Eastern. Confirm by end of day. Sent at 11:52 p.m. By morning, my phone was lit with missed calls. Sarah's name filled the screen. 14 voicemails, 23 frantic texts. The first voicemail was firm but confused. Dave, something strange with the investors. A contract issue maybe? Call me back. The second, sharper. Dave, please, it's urgent. They're saying our lead investor triggered a termination clause. None of this makes sense. We had ironclad guarantees. The third was raw panic. Payrolls today. The bank froze our accounts. They say authorization for all transfers is revoked. Dave, please. I don't know what's happening. Someone's destroying Techflow. By mid-morning, Mom called. Honey, Sarah's hysterical. Investors pulled out overnight. Could you, maybe talk to her? You've always been steady. I don't really follow that kind of sophisticated finance, I said gently. But it's awful, what she's going through. She worked so hard. Finally, at 11:35, I answered Sarah's 15th call. Dave, she cried, voice hoarse. Oh, thank God. Everything collapsed overnight. The $40 million, gone. The investors just walked. No warning. No chance to negotiate. The lawyers keep saying some obscure clause allowed it. That seems unusual, I said evenly. Exactly. It makes no sense. We spent months on due diligence, airtight protections. How can anyone just snatch back $40 million? I could hear her hyperventilating between words, each sentence broken by ragged breaths. Sarah tried to steady herself, but the panic leaked through. What exactly did the lawyers say about this termination clause? I asked evenly. They said our primary investor, some entity called Meridian Holdings, exercised a unilateral termination provision. But Dave, I don't even remember signing anything with Meridian Holdings. Our investor was supposed to be Pinnacle Venture Capital. Maybe Pinnacle works through subsidiaries. I thought so too, at first, I said, but I called Pinnacle directly. They've never heard of TechFlow Solutions. No records, no contracts, no discussions, nothing. There was a long silence. Papers rustled on her end of the line. Dave, her voice cracked. I think someone impersonated investors. Fake companies, fake contracts, fake money. They let me build everything on an illusion, and then yanked it away just to watch me collapse. Why would anyone go to such lengths? I don't know, she wailed. Industrial espionage? A competitor trying to steal our tech? Or maybe someone with a personal vendetta. The lawyers are calling it fraud, but they can't even trace who actually owns Meridian Holdings. At 1:45 p.m., Uncle Robert phoned. His tone was gruff but concerned. Your sister's in pieces. Investors pulled out overnight. She says, wants to know if I have contacts in investment fraud law. Do you know what's going on? Not really, I replied. Sarah knows far more about business than I do, but it sounds suspicious. Real VCs don't just vanish with $40 million. At 2:30, my attorney Michael Chin called. His voice was calm, precise. Termination executed exactly as planned. TechFlow's accounts are frozen. All agreements void. Miss Martinez has received proper legal notice. Any complications? I asked. None. The contracts you had me draft 18 months ago were airtight. She signed every page, including the 48-hour termination clause requiring no justification. Perfectly legal. Perfectly documented. And Meridian Holdings? Dissolved this morning. All filings sealed under Nevada privacy statutes. No traceable link to you or your other entities. By evening, Sarah's number flashed again. This time, I answered. Dave, her voice was smaller now, stripped of its usual bravado. I need to ask you something personal. Go ahead. Last night at dinner, when I announced you weren't smart enough for family business talks, you didn't get mad. You were so calm. Why? Weren't you hurt? I wasn't angry, I said truthfully. But weren't you at least embarrassed? I let the silence stretch. You made a choice you thought was best for the family. I respected that. Her breathing trembled across the line. Do you think this is karma? She whispered. The universe punishing me for humiliating you? I don't really believe in cosmic justice. She began to cry. Because if it is, I'm sorry, Dave. I only wanted respect. I thought excluding you would prove I was serious. I never meant to hurt you. You don't need to apologize for success. But I wasn't successful, she sobbed. None of it was real. Someone manipulated me into believing I was brilliant, then ripped it away to humiliate me. I'm sorry this happened to you, I said softly. The worst part is telling the family. Next week's meeting, I'll have to admit there's no company, no $40 million, that I was never the entrepreneur I pretended to be. Her voice cracked completely. Please, Dave, sit next to me this time. Don't let me face them alone. Of course, I said. The following Tuesday, we gathered not in TechFlow's sleek downtown office. The lease had been terminated that morning, but in Mom and Dad's living room. Sarah sat curled on the sofa in faded jeans and an oversized sweater, a shadow of the sharp, Armani-clad woman from just days earlier. True to my word, I sat beside her. I have some very difficult news, she whispered to the family. TechFlow Solutions no longer exists. Gasps, murmurs, questions erupted instantly. Sarah raised a trembling hand for silence. Yesterday morning, our investors withdrew all funding without warning. $40 million gone overnight. Uncle Robert's face hardened. How is that even legal? Because I signed contracts I didn't understand, Sarah admitted, tears brimming. They had the right to terminate with 48 hours notice, for any reason, or none at all. Dad's voice cracked with disbelief. Sarah, how do you sign a $40 million deal without understanding the clauses? Her tears spilled freely now. Because I was desperate to be someone, desperate to look successful, and in chasing that, I ignored what I didn't want to see.